From CCAEJ, this is Let's Clear the Air. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Let's Clear the Air, a podcast brought to you by the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice. I'm one of your co-hosts, Anthony Victoria, and before we jump into our enlightening conversations, I want to speak to you all on who we are and why we're producing this podcast for you. We're a nonprofit organization and has worked to improve social and environmental conditions for people in low-income communities like San Bernardino, like Jurupa Valley. And so what we focus on is capacity building, which means changing the traditional landscape of local politics and economics by helping our people get to the forefront of those issues. We're focused on improving the natural environment, building our environment, which is mostly working with land use decisions, working with the quality of our life, which is based around air quality issues, and then also looking on how we could change our culture and the way that we govern ourselves, the way that we impose things on one another, as opposed to pushing for more equity and fairness. Our work in the Inland Valley is strategic because it advances the goals of environmental health and social justice throughout California and beyond. This is an environmental justice movement that seeks to provide a voice for people that haven't been at the table historically. And so through our Let's Clear the Air podcast, we want to shed light on not only environmental justice issues, but also discuss other topics that impact and affect residents in our communities. So whether it be in the arts, whether it be with entertainment, culture, community organizing, research projects, community events, Let's Clear the Air aims to provide fascinating stories and information about some of the most creative, courageous, ambitious, and successful people throughout our communities. On today's show, we'll be speaking to Jag and Threat from Kozmik Force about their hip-hop music and about their community organizing, and we'll also have 77 Dead, a San Bernardino-based photographer, talking to us about an event that he's organizing on July 7th. So stay tuned for that. Once again, thank you for tuning in. Peace.
This for my natives and this for my natives and this for my natives up. This for my natives down. This for my natives and this for my natives and this for my natives.
The state don't want a rival like me. I'm not federally recognized, no tribal ID. Them Irish pigs been driving by the barrio lately. This paint in the street speaks, giant stone heads. No bile on my forehead. Me and Threat, descendants of the Olmec, El Salvador, Guatemala, Nicaragua. Indígena reps, this for my natives on the res. We taking the streets, school teachers in Oaxaca. KF boys, we some rebels, motherfucker. They gave us a fake ass book that was supposed to...
Yo. Check it. Composition elegant with fury of a bison. Mics I'm nice with. Take a run. Stressed on this life shit. Working graveyard shifts got me depressed as shit. Imagining myself laid up in a coffin. Fresh fitted shell toes on my feet. 501s in a white tee. Aight, let me chill, G. Take a deep breath. Appreciate every step. Mobbing, catching mad tags on some graffiti. Ill with rap schemes. All you see is crime in the city.
You just listened to Every Direction and Vintage by indigenous hip-hop duo Kozmik Force. And they're here with us today to talk about their music. Threat and Jag, how did this all become possible? How did you two link up and make this great music?
I grew up in the Inland Empire area, and I've always been doing music, probably since I was in high school, doing those freestyle ciphers, beatboxing on the making beats out of the table. Yeah, and I've always, even after high school, I've always done music as a solo artist. I've always had a friendship with Jag, even before we made Kozmik Force. So one day he hit me up. I was already done with the music. He hit me up one day and he wanted to do a collaboration. And me, I was open to it. He's my friend. We're pretty close, so I was just like, let's do it, man. And pretty much after that, it just lit my fire again. And he hit me up. We both had behind our minds we should be a duo. We did it, and it was all organic. The main thing about it was all organic when it came to the music with both of us.
I go by Jag, and I started making music
the first month of 2016, I believe. I just turned 23. And I always wrote stuff growing up. I wrote stuff probably when I was I started writing, messing around, writing rhymes when I was 12 in 6th grade, because that was when I was first exposed to hip hop. Because I come from a background where music that was in English wasn't played in the household I grew up in. My parents are both from Mexico, so the music I was exposed to was in Spanish. It was traditional or regional Mexican music, which I really enjoy as well. But it was the hip hop that really captured my attention. I started writing rhymes, messing around. It wasn't until I got a little older and I started really paying attention to the really political and militant-minded hip hop lyrics that really drove me to begin to write more seriously. And then a friend hit me up and said, "You know what? I got a mic. And whenever you're down to come over, you can spit some, because I know you've always wanted to try it, give it a try." It's a lot of us, I'm sure a lot of people who grew up in the communities where we come from have always at one point spit a rap. I don't care how, we've all tried it, you know what I mean? You listen to rap, you listen to hip hop, you've probably tried it once, So I said, yeah, I'm down, and I did it, and it was a little piece called "Spar Like a Jaguar." I actually wrote it as I was I was recording it. We'd take breaks. It was super offbeat. It was not good, but it was my little icebreaker into getting familiar with actually recording music, which it takes a lot of time and it's really challenging, And over the time, I've worked on getting better. And Threat explained how we linked up. We've been homies for a real long time, and we used to work out and hit him up for a collab. We made it happen. From there, it was just organic. Said let's do this duo thing, and came up with a name. And I think we were driving by slower when we came up with the name Kozmik Force. So
thank you so much for sharing some of the background as far as how you started off. I'd like you to maybe share a little bit more about what is currently influencing you. You mentioned just right now, Jag, that your work started off because you started learning more about the political content of issues on the ground, and also that definitely was a driving force behind your influence, and I'm sure your influence as well, Threat. So right now with the current political climate and the new administration, do you too find yourself feeling perhaps more influence or having more material to work on? And if so, what inclination is your work taking due to the political climate right now?
Definitely, I think this political climate played a big part in our music because it's driving it even more. I think it's giving us even more of a drive, especially with the whole ICE and them snatching up babies, man, and children. So yeah, man, I'll say that's a big influence on my music. But even whether it was this administration or the Obama administration, the Bush administration, it wouldn't matter. We would still be pushing this. I think we're in that tradition, whether we do it subconsciously, we're following that tradition that Public Enemy was at, X-Clan. A lot of these political rappers, we are, I think we're the next, but we're doing it with our twist, for our brown community, but we're still keeping it hip-hop and keeping it true to the roots.
Right, so like you said, it could be the Bush administration, Bush Jr. administration, or the Obama administration. Very similar, it could be the Obama regime right now, and I could still be rapping about ICE deporting people. Throwing people away. I could still be rapping about mass incarceration. With the Bush administration, the Clinton administration, we could go back to Bush Sr., right? So a lot of these problems have been around for a really long time. But yeah, it's now with the new fascist in office, it's more in your face, right? It's more aggressive, but nonetheless, we're always going to push this message, because at the end of the day, it's we're facing neocolonialism all the time. People are being poisoned with air that we breathe, the food that we take, all that. We're getting hit from every direction. Every angle, whether it's police brutality or, environmental crimes against humanity here in this area, specifically San Bernardino area, some of the worst air quality in the nation,
You mentioned the name of your group, Kozmik Force, and how you came up with it. Can you describe that a little bit more, and the meaning behind the name, and what it means to both of you, and what it represents in your music, and how maybe you form your music around that name and that philosophy?
So the name came about, Jag came up with an idea. So we wanted something that everybody could connect to. So we started thinking, the cosmos, you know what I mean? Then we wanted something, force. We wanted something, not only something that's going to connect us all, but also that force, you know what I mean, that really drives us to say what we say, because even though we do spit conscious rap, it's aggressive too at the same time, So, Cosmic Force, that's how we came up with it. But, I mean, Jag was the one behind the name, so he'll probably give you some more detail on it.
So with Cosmic Force, being myself and Threat, and I'm sure everyone in this room here as descendants of the Amerindian diaspora of the Americas, specifically the region people know in history as Mesoamerica. A lot of our people who built these very majestic structures of these temples, they were aligned with celestial bodies and the cosmos, and something that's higher and that connects us, all of us, and that's everything around us. The cosmos, outer space. You got the plants, our animal relations, insects, those with fins, in the water, because we're all related, at the end of the day. And what we do affects others. Before, colonization, we had a very strong relationship with the environment where it wasn't abused. For the arrival of European terrorists in 1492, we had a connection with, that life force that exists within all of us. Some people might call it a spirit, some people might call it energy, but it's nonetheless it's real. So it's science, right? It's mathematics, and that's why we wanted it. And that force, like you said, it's a cosmic force. It can't be stopped. It's timeless. It's from beginning till the end.
It's so interesting you bring up the way that our ancestors carried themselves out, right? I think that a lot of the audience that's listening right now can identify with definitely the idea of colonialism and how we've been colonized. So I guess my question now is, there's a lot of people of color on the ground, even in the IE, that are brown people, right? But oftentimes we don't know what our history is or where we come from. And we're so disconnected from that because of the way that we've been, again, colonized, the way that we've been taught in school. So in terms of your audience, how do you then break that gap? Or I guess, who is your audience? Does your audience get it when you're including this idea of how our ancestors were so intertwined with the cosmos, for instance, right? How do you bring that gap together so people understand? Or does your audience already understand it?
I think for the most part, our audience already understands. But even the ones that don't, they end up asking questions. And they'll literally hit me or Jag up, DM us, and let us know hey, what does this mean? Or how could I reconnect? How could I start these steps to indigenize and reroot? My personal experience is just, I think you should just, whatever's around you, whatever's accessible, whether it be the Mexica culture, because most of us are not Mexica, but that is, I think, a lot of people of Chicano descent, they gravitate towards that because that's what's more mainstream. But I definitely think once you reach that, you should definitely start digging a little deeper into your roots or where you're from. If you're from Zacatecas or Michoacan, start really digging. That's what I'll say. And then even if, say, you don't have really a connection with indigenous from the southern, side of things, maybe northern native, whether it be Lakota, Navajo, just whatever's accessible, but also do it, doing the knowledge, but responsibly also, because that's someone else's culture. But at the end of the day, though, we're all one, whether it's the north, the south, So
to build off what he said, a lot of us don't know, we are, even though race is a European colonial construct, it does affect our daily lives, right? The structures that exist of racism and power dynamics and all that. But if we are to put it into the society that Europeans have built on top of ours, racially, a large majority of people that they call Latinos are actually Amerindian, right? American Indian, Native American, original inhabitants of this continent, whether they're mixed blood or full-blooded. You can go to Oaxaca, Mexico, Guerrero, Mexico. You can go to Guatemala, Peru, Bolivia, parts of Chile, most of it Paraguay, and you'll find people who look like Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, Cuauhtemoc, people who are indigenous to this supercontinent that most people know today as the Americas, whether it's north, central, or south. We're one people. We're the same, right? The same way that African people are from Africa, Amerindian people are from the Americas, European people are from Europe. We're the same people. We're the same. We are the same. We are our ancestors. So. And yes, some of us ended up living in a tribal, more traditional community, such as in the area where my people are from, Michoacan, Mexico. There's still people of the Purépecha diaspora living traditionally, speaking the language. I myself, I'm very disconnected from my Purépecha heritage, right? My parents grew up, what most people would know as mestizo culture, right? And I always put mestizo culture in quotes because mestizaje was a way to eradicate indigenous people, right? Blancamiento, there was literally laws throughout all of what is today known as Latin America. Blancamiento wanted to get rid of these people, get rid of the savages, so-called savages, right? They didn't want us to survive, right? Some of us are relatively more light-skinned than others, but you'll still see the features in our nose and in our height, right? Those of us of the Mesoamerican diaspora are smaller in stature, right? But we carry some of those features still today, whether it be not being able to grow a mustache or your height, your nose, the bump on your nose, your straight pin straight needle hair, you know, so much of this, but it's been erased also because of nationalism, right? You have, oh, I'm a Salvadoreño, I'm not, yo soy indio, right? And the person can literally look like Crazy Horse, Sitting Bull, and be like, no, yo soy indio, soy Salvadoreño. So if a person, in that case, Malcolm X he'd be part white, part black, right? But you ask Malcolm X, rest in power, he's a black man. He's like, I'm an African. I'm not white. It got into my bloodstream, but I'm not white, right? He didn't identify with his colonizers. Minister Farrakhan, same thing. You know, they're relatively lighter skinned. They're lighter than me. You know, they had skin complexions that were probably lighter than myself, but nonetheless, they identify with what they feel in their heart and that gut feeling in their spirit. And if the settlers kidnap an Apache off the res, right? They send him off to live with some other people. He ends up being raised by European Americans. Is that child not Apache no more because he didn't grow up with his parents or his community or his res? All of a sudden, is he not indigenous no more, or is he still indigenous? He doesn't know the language, doesn't practice the spirituality. All he knows is to speak English, has short hair. Is that person all of a sudden not Apache? So am I not Purepecha because I've been pulled away from my heritage by force through cycles of colonization? Am I all of a sudden not a native anymore, right? An indigenous person from this continent? These are questions that I feel like, you know, they need to be brought forth, you know, because we can't be made to look like foreigners on our ancestral continent, you know, whether we are on the northern side of a colonial border or on the southern side. We put ourselves in danger of, you know, allowing foreigners to call us foreigners, right? Because we're not foreigners. You know, we've been here over 10,000 years, gave the world so much in mathematics, agriculture, forms of government, chocolate, chewing gum, potatoes, you know, the concept of zero, so much that we've given to the world. Kind of started away from the question, but, you know.
No, I think what you said is true. I think especially in, let's say, the last 100 years or so,
sure,
we've tried, you're absolutely right, this whole concept of mestizaje, right? Raza Kozmika, right? Even though on the surface it may appear as something that's unique, that's good, because you're essentially saying, in theory, that you're mixing
multicultural or multi-ethnic.
You know, underneath that stuff, it's really, like you're saying, it's a way to try to eradicate this indigenismo, right? And this sense of like you're coming from these indigenous cultures that were really great civilizations, right?
Sure, yeah.
And because of racism, because of Western imperialism, now they're gone. And these notions of Western imperialism still exist, right? Like this whole concept, even this concept of democracy, right? There's still people that can't vote, right? Undocumented people still can't vote, even though some of them are some of the most engaged people that I've ever met, right?
Felons, quote unquote.
Felons, quote unquote, still can't vote because of the same thing, right? So where is this so-called democracy, right? Where people of all backgrounds, of all cultures have a voice. And I think you're absolutely right. And I think it's, you know, thank you for bringing up those questions.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you all for bringing out so much consciousness, because I think sometimes some of you who might be listening to this podcast today might be a little surprised that CCAJ is carrying out this conversation that's it's going deeper, and that's what we want to do. We want to spark up a conversation that is often not on the table. But I want to bring it back to the music now. So I have lived in the IE for over 20 years. I consider myself a native of this land, and I myself am a lover of hip hop and rap and underground rap or underground hip hop. Yeah. But I've also noticed that a lot of the attention doesn't come to the IE, right? Yeah. You see a lot of this out in the LA area or other parts of the nation. What are your thoughts about how to change that? How do we then bring some more attention to highlight some artists like you two, some organizers like you two who are bringing so much consciousness? What do you think should happen in order for more light to be shed over artists like yourselves or the concept of hip hop and rap out in the IE?
Honestly, I think we just work hard and just really put your heart into what you create. And I just think eventually, you know, the universe will respond to that, and you will get that. They will look at you. even though, yeah, you know, that is very true what you said about the IE. We always get overlooked because of LA. You know, hopefully we could be that door to open that up to other artists here, you know, because now we got people paying attention to us. Even though we might not be from LA, we're from the Inland Empire. But hopefully we could be that step. We could open up that door for other artists and for other people, you know, from LA to look our way and be like, oh, yo, that's Kozmik Force, but who's behind Kozmik Force? Let's check that out. So I think at the end of the day, just put your heart into what you create, you know, be honest. And I just feel it'll just come full circle. You know, it might take some time because, you know, we are from that region, like I said, that we get overlooked all the time. You know, but I think now with the climate changing, especially with a lot of people from, you know, from LA moving over here because of gentrification that's going on, and even the OC, I feel that, you know, we're next up. You know, so I mean, just put your heart into it.
So is the idea of going mainstream off the table for you two? If that opportunity were to ever be offered to you two, would you ever go mainstream or no?
No, honestly, I don't think we'll ever go mainstream in that sense. But I mean, we're definitely, you know, me and Jack have talked about this. If anything, we'll be open to maybe like a major distribution deal. But that's about it. We'll never probably sign. We'll never sign to no major record label because they ain't gonna let us say what we want to say.
That's
and
right.
We want full control of what we say, and no one's gonna censor us, and no one's gonna tamper with what we say. And in the day, man, like we got integrity, so we ain't gonna sell up for no dollar. Because at the end of the day, we don't do this. We don't do this music for money. You know what I'm saying? We don't do it. That's not our main drive. Our motivation has always been, you know, just the love and just speaking about these issues that need to be talked about. And you know, because hip hop has always been, you know, about partying. That's how it started, you know, block parties. So that's a part of hip hop. So I don't hate on rappers that talk about partying and stuff, you know, because, you know, sometimes we don't need to party because, I mean, this reality is so, it's tough, you know. But at the same time, I just feel in this day and age, it's oversaturated with that, especially with the pushing the drug abuse. All that is just oversaturated with that. There needs balance. And you know what? We bring that balance of talking about these social issues, political issues, and, you know, in our community.
Yeah.
And I think that's the unique thing about you two is that I know, you know, especially from Jag, I think I hear you talk about like, you know, being sober and man. and that's unique, I think, in hip hop, right? I think
100%,
hearing that I think is truth to power, you know, because
for sure.
It's the reality. I think a lot of, you know, it's a part of our society, unfortunately, and you know, our people are unfortunately very, very intertwined with that. But I think it's good for folks to see
most definitely.
and hear that stuff. So
we got to make it look the same way. I mean, unfortunately, drug abuse is made to look like it's something positive on the mainstream, on the radio and shit like that. Stuff
especially
like that.
through hip hop, I feel.
Definitely. You know, like they use it as an outlet to promote drug abuse, drug culture. So I mean, definitely push the message of sobriety, not in your face as a weight of judgment, but you know what? It's okay to be sober.
It's cool.
You know, I never smoked weed, never tried it in my life, never drank, never took a sip of alcohol, never ever. I'm completely 100% sober until I'm like I said, until like I'm dead. But to go back to your question, I think, you know, there's always been that whole like, you know, the IE community organizing is not as strong as LA or the OC, right? We don't get as much support as you know, the LA rallies or, you know, the big marchas. But I do see a change. You know, the IE, the March, the May Day March, they're growing, and it's gonna take time. Again, we're a desert city. We're nowhere near the beach. You know, we're nowhere near those areas that have these big buildings, right? But the same, I feel like it'll happen with, you know, maybe an underground scene of hip hop, and we gotta support. And you know, thankfully we have supporters who have came out to our shows in Dino from the SGV and the LA area. You know, so you know we're down to come out here, man. You know, it's about, like I say, it's working hard and staying motivated and not watering down our message. If an opportunity is offered as far as like a major distribution deal, you know, we're down with that, you know, but not being a slave to a record label either, because that's what major artists are at the end of the day. Unfortunately, you know, they're millionaires, but they could be probably billionaires if they didn't take so much royalties from them, the labels, which at the end of the day are owned by people that do not look like them, you know. They're getting pimped. You know, the most gangster rapper you've ever heard of, the real gangster is the dude writing his checks and taking away his checks. Wow. That's the dude, you know, pimping them. He might talk about pimping like women and stuff. He's getting pimped, you know what I mean? He's getting pimped, taxed by and you know, you got some artists who will throw a few conscious stuff out there who are very known and very popular, but at the end of the day, these conscious artists are still they were having like dinner with Obama at his house, playing basketball with Obama.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say their names. I wouldn't want to give them free promo, you know. Not just kidding, but,
right.
You know, I mean, they front, but at the end of the day, they're cool, man. They're cool with the president. You know, they're not cool with this one because he's too racist in your face. But the other one wasn't doing nothing for the murders of African Americans on the street at the hands of law enforcement and so forth, mass incarceration, deportation. You know, I mean they're still part of the industry. You know, the industry is ran by not by people who look like them, but
That's right.
You know.
Yeah. I think it's important that the audience knows how they can support your music and your artistry, because I've had the privilege to witness your work and I've been very much touched by it, moved by it, and empowered by it. And I know that folks have, men and women, and anybody who has been exposed to your music and what you bring forth. So with that said, how can people stay connected with your music? Are you on social media? Where can they hit you up? Do you have any any place where they can keep up with where you're going to be doing work? And if so, where can we look you up?
We got a YouTube channel. You can just type in Kozmik Force, Kozmik Force. And then subscribe to our channel. Usually we put all our music videos and our music on there, so that'll be like the first spot. And also SoundCloud, we're on SoundCloud, Kozmik Force, same way, Kozmik. I got Instagram at native.threat. You can follow me on there.
Yeah, so like I said, YouTube, SoundCloud. Y'all can find him on IG. We have a Kozmik Force Instagram at fuerza.cosmica. So it's spelled FUERZA.COSMICA. And y'all can follow us on there. We also have a show coming up on the 4th of July, which is the false of July, because you know there's no such thing as Independence Day on native land, right? Stolen, illegally occupied territory. But the event's called the Farce of July. Big shout out to Yao from Aslan Underground for booking us.
That's a big homie.
The Farce of July. It's on the 4th. So the 4th on a Wednesday, it'll be in Boyle Heights. Y'all wanna type in if you hashtag Farce FARCE of July on Instagram, I'm sure you'll find the flyer. Not if you want to follow us on that page, but for the 4th of July in Boyle Heights, we'll be there. We hope to see all our supporters there.
It starts at 2:00, right?
Yeah, it starts at 2:00 and it'll end later on. There's a great lineup, a lot of dope independent artists who work regular jobs but still have the time to create art that reflects, what we feel. Sometimes, we want to get angry, so we use art, some of this poetry, to express ourselves the same way our ancestors did, because our ancestors were very expressive, creative people. We have to stay creating, whether that be painting, drawing, being a parent. Being a parent is also an art form. Whatever you do, or if it's just kicking back, taking a nap. I love to take naps, so take a nap, take a break.
We all do here, so.
Thank y'all for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you for coming out.
And thank you for the dope work y'all do in the community. It's truly appreciated, Maybe we can come back, for a longer session.
We look forward to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you everyone for listening today. Make sure to come back and listen to the next podcast that's going to be posted soon. And we look forward to hearing your comments as well, and any questions or any ideas for future topics that you'd like us to discuss in other podcasts.
Executive Director Alan Hernandez will explain why you should oppose plans from San Bernardino County leaders to rezone residential land to industrial.
By changing the zoning, more warehouses will be built near your homes, schools, and small ranches. 17 acres of land that can be utilized as green spaces and commercial development will be used instead to benefit industry to the detriment of community. Our community deserves to live in a place that is safe and has clean air. No industrial project should be approved next to homes and schools. We deserve better.
Back to Let's Clear the Air. I'm here with 77 Dead, San Bernardino-based photographer. Welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me, Anthony. I'm really happy to be here.
Most definitely. So, as we discussed off the air, there's a big meet that you're organizing in San Bernardino on July 7th. And so I'm sure you're going to have a lot of other photographers that are talented, just as you are. And so can you talk about that a little bit and just tell us why you're setting this up?
So the meet that I'm going to hold pretty soon on July 7th, I'm really excited for, because the reason I'm making it is in order to network people in San Bernardino, artists such as Bryce Oliver, L.A. Deuce, Ken Malik, and Westside Mac, to the rest of the community and other photographers and artists. Photo meets are something that have been happening for a long period of time. You know, it started in LA a while back, around like in 2016, so it's not anything like new or innovative. The only thing that will be more innovative about this meet will just be the fact that it's in San Bernardino. The reason I wanted to hold it here was because, like I said, I really wanted the community to get in touch and network with each other so we could start building up towards something bigger.
When I see meets, right, there's people that are always, I always see people on Instagram. I follow a lot of photographers. That's how you and I met. I always see them going to meets, and it looks like a lot of fun. It looks like there's a lot of people that go out. They have different props, right? Like, so they dress up. They have certain themes. It just looks really cool, right? For lack of a better word, I guess. And like, are we gonna see that same kind of style in San Bernardino, or like, what do you like envision right now?
So it will be mostly for photographers too. Like, the goal is to have them network with local artists so they could start planning out content to create together. To revolve around your question, it will be a lot like the meets in LA as well. I plan to get in touch with these artists so they could be the models for these meets. There will be a lot of props. There will be a lot of cool things for photographers to do. And we're currently planning on it. We're working on things, and yeah, expect it to be very similar to that of LA, with a touch of, more networking involved.
So I know San Bernardino is not considered like in LA, obviously, right? It's a city that's struggling right now currently, but I'm sure there's a lot of talent. I'm sure that there's a lot of people that take opportunities like this and they run with them, right? And by that I mean they go to these events, they network with other artists, they network with other photographers, with models. And so why do you believe that this is important, right? Like how do you think people who go to this meet will benefit from the experience?
For me, it was more just because San Bernardino doesn't really have a lot of things to do, and my main goal is I want people in San Bernardino to succeed just as much as people in LA, and I want to be able to bring that sort of pizzazz that LA has to San Bernardino. And this vision had happened like 2 years ago when I hosted a meet in LA, and the turnout was really good. And right after that, I was thinking to myself, like, it'd be great to do this in San Bernardino. But I didn't feel it was quite ready at the time. And throughout these past 2 years, I've been really just working with local artists and finding people, networking with them, and getting in touch with them and trying to get a feel for like the people in the area. And I think people are really ready for it, and they're ready to have a meet. There's a lot more artists that have come out, a lot more young photographers that I see graduating high school that follow me, that like message me like, hey man, like I started doing photography because I really enjoy your work and things of that sort. And with that being said, it's like I want to do this more for those like younger people, to open a door for them to have more things to do, as opposed to what San Bernardino offers, which is, a warehouse job or something like that. So I want to give them the opportunity to meet up with other artists and to show them that potential that they have, or give a platform for that potential to be shown. So this meet is important in the sense that it'll build community, and it'll bring more people together, and it'll bring more eyes to the current artists that currently don't have a platform.
It's interesting that you mentioned, right, providing people with more opportunity, right? Because you're right. I mean, we look at San Bernardino, and what do we see? We see warehouses, right? And it's just not San Bernardino. It's the entire Inland Valley, right? Mm-hmm. But specifically to San Bernardino, there's a downtown that has no activity, right? There's no action. There's no events happening during the weekend. And yet there's this entire generation, you could say, of people who are looking for some kind of opportunity, for some kind of open door to showcase their skills, whether that be in photography, whether that be with writing, whether that be with anything really, right? Anything that deals with creativity. And so, you mentioned some of your friends, some of the folks that you work with, right, who are up-and-coming artists, up-and-coming musicians. How do you think, moving forward, right, beyond this meet, because I'm sure that this meet is just the beginning of something more, right? is the beginning of something bigger. How do you think, like, moving forward, both like community folks, right, like people like you and I, and also leaders, right, like our city leaders, how do you think we could work together, try to make sure that there are more opportunities for youth, and that there are more opportunities for those folks that want to just have that platform to create?
Yeah, it's just that I see there's so much like hungry people out there, like a lot of potential out here in this city, and like I said, this meet will give them a chance to gain a platform and to meet with other people, so it could start like a catalyst in a sense to more collaborations and more unity amongst artists and other artists, or maybe even small businesses. I want to take this moment right now to tell anyone, like, whether you're a painter, a makeup artist, a model, a photographer, a singer, a songwriter, a rapper, feel free to come by to the meet. This meet is for you. If you're a small business, come by to the meet. This meet is for you. This meet, it's a photo meet, so people generally get this idea that, oh, it's just for photographers, it's just for this. No, like, if you're not a photographer still, just come by, say hi to some people, meet local artists, get in touch with them, learn about the people who work around you, and show them that you support them. And this meet, I hope it's a catalyst for even more events to come. A goal that I want to make open as well is that I want a lot of the female artists to be there. The thing I have in mind is that I want to have an art show after this that is mostly just generated to the female artists. And another thing I want is I want people like skaters to be there, because I want skaters to have events too. And I hope this event is just a catalyst to see like the outcome for other small businesses, so then they could start making events and other people could start making their own events. And if you're interested in starting your own event, feel free to walk up to me and ask me about it, and I'm more open to speaking to you about that, because this is my goal. My goal is that I'll have this event, people will come, and it'll open their eyes to, like, I could do that too. Like, I can make an event also. And I want to challenge people. After you go to my event, I want you to create an event that beats my event, because the whole goal with this is just to start a catalyst. I want this to be a snowball effect. They come to my meet, they get motivated, they create their own meets, they create their own events. They network, they meet other people, they create their own content, and they just market themselves. San Bernardino is like the modern day Compton. We have potential, and that potential is what's going to dig us out of this hole. Sort of like how Snoop Dogg dug out Compton, how Kendrick is building up Compton.
Dr. Dre, all those folks.
Dr. Dre. And, San Bernardino is just like that. People like Ken Malik, people like Bryce Oliver, Crip named Stacks, LA Deuce. Like, those people have unlimited potential, and they could be the next Snoop Dogg, the next Dr. Dre. Like, producers too, come by, meet the artist, get in touch. DJs, anyone from the Inland Empire, come by, meet, greet, and let's do something bigger. Let's make some changes happen. And I really feel like this may be the start of something big.
And that's really the idea, right? Is to uplift these people, because what you want out of these creative folks, out of these visionaries like yourself, is to give them that platform, give them that opportunity, right? Like, have them be the catalysts, right, for change in San Bernardino. And like Dr. Dre, like Kendrick Lamar, right? They've moved out of Compton, they've traveled, they've done their thing, but you see them going back all the time, don't you, right? Like, you see them having concerts at Nickerson Gardens or in all these projects, right? You wouldn't, like, other folks, like, folks think about that, like, wow, like, why would this guy go back to the hood? It doesn't make sense, but it does make sense, because when people see a person like Kendrick come back into the community and really take the time to not only perform but to actually network and spend time with people, I think it drives people to want to do the same thing, or it drives people to want to be successful, right? And it's the same thing with the individuals you mentioned, right? Like Bryce Oliver, Crip named Stacks, right? They may be perceived as people that don't want any kind of change or that are portraying something negative, but it's quite the opposite in my opinion, right? I think, I don't know them personally, but I have listened to some of their music. I think it's their way of portraying what's happening, but it's also their way of, like, utilizing their talents for the greater good not only themselves, but also the community, right? And so by doing this kind of stuff, you're not only helping uplift young folks, but you're also helping the next generation, right? Because they'll see what you're doing and they'll say, I could do that as well. And like you said, that's what causes change. That's what motivates change, right? So in essence, the arts, social change are hand in hand. Wouldn't you agree?
Definitely, man. I definitely agree. You see all these people who have changed their cities is just because their art, what they create. And that creation builds curiosity into other people. Like, people become curious, like, man, like, San Bernardino is really pushing out all these cool, like, artists, like, these amazing artists. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that this potential that we have could become more than potential. It could become a better reality for, like, future generations. And we need more events like this so kids have something to do. Because that's really what I think it all boils down to, is that San Bernardino is violent not because people want to be violent, because no one wants to shoot at someone, no one wants to get shot at. It's just they don't have anything else to do. They don't have any other, like, motivation or anything to look at or give them an example. It's like, when you're surrounded by violence, what are you going to expect out of someone? Is just violence. And the city isn't really helping us because all they're building is warehouses and jobs, but they're not giving people alternatives.
They're not temporary jobs either. Let's just make they're not temporary jobs. It's just, we got to make that clear as well, and you're right, man. I think when you breed hate, what do you expect to get back? Hate. And I think, not to go on a tangent, but that's kind of been the conundrum of our entire country, right? But specifically with San Bernardino, I mean, you have this idea of wanting to go back to the past. We can't go back to the past. All we could do is control our future and make sure that that we have a brighter future, right? This meet that you're trying to, that you're organizing is just the beginning of that, right? And I firmly believe that. And I think there's other groups out there, right? Like San Bernardino Generation Now. There's other artists, right? Like my good friend, A West Side Story, right? And other folks that are out there as well who produce and they tell stories. And I think that's a way for folks to not only learn about the other dynamics of our community, right? Other communities that exist within a community like San Bernardino. And that's the only way that we'll get some positivity, in my opinion. And so, I want to thank you, for everything you've done. I want to take this time to thank you and to really praise your work as an artist. And, I think this is the beginning of something good. And so, yeah, most definitely, man.
And you said we have 15 minutes, so we have to wrap it up. I just want to take the time to say thank you for giving me this platform to speak and about the me and have things going. I'd also like to shout out a few people like Yo909, That Kid G, Ken Malik, Bryce Oliver, LA Deuce, Westside Mac, the Avenue of Small Business, and any other small businesses. Make sure to go support them. Another thing I would like to say is that if you're a small business or an artist, feel free to message me or DM me. Get in contact with me and let's plan some things. Let's get some things going. And yeah, I just wish the best for San Bernardino and the rest of IE. And I hope we could all support each other for something bigger.
So that was 77 Dead. You can follow him on Instagram at 77 Dead. He's a photographer from San Bernardino, a visionary, and a very dope person. So once again, thank you so much for coming on. And this about wraps it up. I want to also thank Kozmik Force, Jag, and Threat for coming on. Also want to give a big shout out to my compañera Ericka Flores. She is also a co-host, and you'll be seeing more of her later on as episodes progress. Thank you once more. Stay safe. Peace.